Good morning, everyone. Josh's Severe Weather. Happy Thursday to you. Well, we're going to cut right to the chase. We've got another day of destructive storms expected and another potential for a derecho. I'm not quite sure if yesterday's storms technically got to the derecho status. I know that was a possibility. I'm not quite sure. Again, it was a forecast. However, what I'm looking at for later today and tonight across the Great Plains and into parts of the southeast looks a lot more like a derecho than even what we saw yesterday. So a derecho is basically a line of storms that carries on more than 6 hours with widespread severe wind, likely some tornadoes and hail over kind of a 60-mile wide swath. So kind of an area of destruction that continues on. It means straight ahead in Spanish. We didn't quite have that yesterday. We had a lot of severe weather, but we had kind of multiple segments. And trust me, it was really nasty for many of you in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, even into parts of Arkansas and Louisiana. But what we're seeing today is going to start farther north and west in the Great Plains, Kansas, Oklahoma, northwest Texas. And then that's going to move across tonight through Oklahoma and then overnight into tomorrow across portions of Dixie in kind of a weakening state at that point. So I'm going to share my screen with you and show you our latest well, I'll come back to this, but our latest wind forecast from the Storm Prediction Center, and yet another moderate risk. This time, instead of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, it's over Oklahoma, Kansas, and the Texas Panhandle. But this is likely to get fired up here later this afternoon and going to move very quickly across Oklahoma this evening and then overnight into the Arklatex and then early tomorrow into Mississippi and Alabama. We will have some severe weather again today out ahead of this main complex of storms over Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, maybe Louisiana. However, I guess the main event, if you want to call it that, with the highest chance of seeing giant hail, some tornadoes, and wind speeds that could get up to 90 miles per hour is back here across the Great Plains. And a lot of this is being caused by a very strong subtropical jet stream. I'm going to show you that in just a little bit. Here's what we had yesterday. Again, not quite a derecho, and I apologize. I was definitely not trying to scare folks. That was a possibility. However, things kind of came in more segments, so we weren't able to see that 60-mile wide swath. But if you look at the map here, nonetheless, it was a destructive day, and last night was still destructive. At least 10 reported tornadoes, perhaps a Mississippi state record on hail, 5+ inch hail, grapefruit hail just south of Starkville. And we've seen widespread wind damage with gusts over 80 miles per hour in some of these storms. So whether or not it gets tagged a derecho, it was a destructive day. And we're going to see it again here today. Here is our Storm Prediction Center public severe weather outlook. We are looking at a likelihood of severe weather, a level 4 moderate risk out of 5 with widespread damaging winds, some to hurricane force, a few tornadoes, and widespread large hail, some baseball size. So it's deja vu all over again, yet in a different spot. And that threat for severe weather continues on to the south and east along a boundary here where we're going to see multiple impulses moving off to the south and east. This is through about 7 a.m. Central tomorrow morning. You'll see we've got a very big threat for hail over northwest Oklahoma. 10% chance of very large hail, 2 inches or more in diameter, carrying over to Oklahoma City, also down into the Big Sky country of Texas, and then back to the Kansas and Colorado border. This is going to start here late this afternoon, and this evening we'll likely see our best chance for very big hail. There will be a chance for some tornadoes in here as well, a 10% chance, especially early on in this derecho's life cycle. And that chance for tornadoes continues to north central parts of Texas, to about Abilene or so, and to the east of Oklahoma City as well. And what could be maybe more of an impact will be the large area of storms that creates wind damage over 74 miles per hour. This entire region could see hurricane force winds late this afternoon into tonight. We will still see a chance for severe weather into the overnight hours farther south and east, but the greatest risk will carry into the Oklahoma City, Norman, Moore areas here through the evening hours today. We are going to see more severe weather during the day tomorrow. This first wave will continue to carry on through Arkansas and the Mississippi. I'm going to zoom over in a bit and show you the southeast. We'll have additional storms tomorrow, though, firing up in some of the same areas. At this point, probably not as intense or as widespread as what we're seeing this afternoon and evening, but certainly there is a risk for some pretty decent sized hail in here as well, and a tornado chance across southeast Colorado into the Oklahoma panhandle. So a less populated area, but nonetheless, there will be a risk for severe weather. And I'm sure we're going to see some pictures of storm chasers out there as well, and severe winds in this area as well. The threat for severe weather is not done tomorrow. We see an even bigger area, which I think could grow some on Saturday. Right now, a slight risk, but I would not be surprised if this area, once we get closer to that time frame, we see an upgrade to at least an enhanced risk. It is somewhat possible we could see yet another derecho a little bit farther east in this area, but until we get closer to then, I can't say that with a lot of confidence. But nonetheless, we are likely looking at a decent sized area of severe weather centered on Oklahoma. We're not done there either. We will likely see some more severe weather on Sunday, a little bit farther to the east into the Mississippi Valley states. So really just a very rough pattern here. Beyond that, the chances for severe weather are still there, but the predictability is going to be too low to kind of highlight an area that will exactly get it. We'll look farther to the south and east, and we do have a slight risk today. We'll see some severe weather this morning, and then additional severe weather moving in overnight tonight from that derecho moving into the Arklatex and then the Arklamis region. And I'll zoom in and show you there is going to be a pretty decent sized hail threat here today as well over the central Gulf Coast region, basically from about Hattiesburg through Mobile, Pensacola, all the way over to Panama City here. Maybe in a couple of waves, we could have some giant hail. And beyond that, we do have a risk for some hail as well over portions of Ohio and Lake Erie. And we could see a bit of hail into South Carolina and into the northern half of Florida. There will be a chance for tornadoes, 5% here as well. Anyone could see a brief tornado, but a better chance here in the central and eastern Gulf states, and the threat for severe wind across this entire region as well. And there will be a wind threat as well with the storms that develop across Ohio. Tomorrow, we see more severe weather. This will be from the remnants of the derecho. We could also see storms firing up in the mid-Atlantic region, and Florida could see a few nasty storms with the heating of the day and whatever boundary is left over. There will be a threat for big hail here with this derecho that moves through in the morning and continues to about lunchtime in the western Florida and Georgia. There will be somewhat of a chance for tornadoes in here as well, perhaps intense tornadoes. Anywhere from near Little Rock and just westward through the Arklamis, through Jackson, Mississippi, and onto the Gulf Coast. And I apologize, I don't know why that didn't load. Oh no, I take that back. Okay, so that was the hail. The tornado risk is not very big tomorrow, but we will see a wind risk. So strike what I just said, I apologize. A lot of data to comprehend and get out to you guys, so I apologize for skipping through that, making a mistake. But here we go. Wind threat across this exact same region here with the derecho that's moving through in the morning, and a slight chance for some severe wind across parts of Virginia, Maryland, South Jersey, Delaware, the Delmarva Peninsula as well. Day 3, that is Saturday, a little less active, but we could see a few storms in the northeast, a marginal risk for severe weather in the southeast, but that chance for severe weather starts growing again across Arkansas. And we'll take you over to Sunday, and it's Father's Day, and we will likely have some severe weather which will mar your outdoor plans here over portions of the southeast and into the boot heel of Missouri, maybe into western Kentucky and into the middle of Tennessee as well. All right, so I'm going to show you, this is the HRRR model from weatherbell.com where the strongest winds are going to be, and you're going to see why I think we're going to have a derecho here. We'll start to see wind gusts across western Kansas exceeding 80 miles per hour as storms fire up very quickly. This is 5 o'clock Central, 4 Mountain Time, 6, 7, 8. You will see as the night wears on and continues into early tomorrow morning, this entire region here, let me annotate it for you. I'm going to try and get you an easy to view image here. And you'll see this entire region here is going to have predicted widespread wind damage. It's going to start here about 5, 6 o'clock and carry on to the east-southeast, right on through early tomorrow. Wind gusts perhaps up to 75 miles per hour, even in the Mississippi. This has a more of a classic look of a derecho to it, in that it's going to have enough of a width in it, enough of a swath of 60 miles wide or more, maybe even 100 miles, and it's going to carry over probably a 12-hour time frame, if not maybe even a 16-hour time frame, if the HRRR model is right. And again, this is a forecast, so we've seen with these events, forecasts are going to be somewhat uncertain, or they're going to latch on to an idea and maybe be a little bit incorrect or a little bit off on the timing. But nonetheless, if you zoom in here to the deep south, you'll see these severe winds are likely to move into Arkansas and Louisiana here right around 2 in the morning. This is 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. tomorrow. Looks really nasty in Mississippi. 9 a.m., 10 a.m. in southern Alabama, 11 a.m. in western Florida, and we're finally seeing some gradual weakening here of the complex of storms by the time they get into about the middle of the day here, 1 o'clock Eastern time, near the mouth of the Chattahoochee River here. So what's forming in Oklahoma and Kansas tonight looks like it's still going to hold together as it moves into the deep south tomorrow morning, with it going on a tear. So I think this is going to be a very rare derecho, and I would not be shocked to see an upgrade to at least an enhanced risk here for tomorrow from Louisiana to western Florida, depending on if this is going to actually hold together or not. Here's a look at the global model. This is the GFS, just showing you guys our storm in the northeast front continues to be pretty much stagnant across this area. It's going to lift a little bit more to the north and east. Just more activity over the weekend. You can see this is Sunday morning, and then Sunday afternoon, additional storms, basically from Kansas and Missouri and Oklahoma straight on down into Florida, and just tracking on a southeasterly track here. We'll see more severe weather potentially on Monday in the southeast. We quiet down though as high pressure builds in to Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana. It's going to get really hot here at the start of next week, and then we're going to see additional storms moving into the Carolinas here Tuesday and Wednesday, but maybe an overrunning event where it's just kind of cooler than average and pretty darn wet from North Carolina to Virginia into the mid-Atlantic. So more of a springtime pattern than a summertime pattern on our first day of summer here next Wednesday. All right, so I am going to show you all the upper level pattern here really quickly, and you can see strong vorticity coming out of our next disturbance here across Colorado and Kansas. Look at these bright colors over Oklahoma. This is going to sustain our storm complex, and it's going to move east-southeastward. And we're going to see more of these here the next couple of days here. It's just going to be very active. So continuing to watch that. The upper level jet stream, very active over the southern parts of the United States. We continue to see that right on through about Sunday. And then beyond that, we're going to see what could be a slightly quieter weather pattern across this area. A region of high pressure builds, and we see a strong upper level low in the northwest. That's going to bring more active weather into the northern plains next week. We will still see a trough across the east, but it does start to slowly lift out, but it gets replaced by a cutoff low pressure system. So any promise of any kind of real heating across the Great Lakes here doesn't look like it would happen until later next week. Showed you this as well, the NAM upper level pattern. Here is our disturbance that is moving out of Oklahoma here and across the Red River Valley and into Mississippi here early in the day tomorrow. So derecho path here, all being driven by a pretty strong upper level, mid-level, upper level. All right, I'm gonna learn to talk. Mid-level vorticity maximum. That is where we have added spin in the atmosphere, faster winds aloft as well. All right, take a deep breath. Here's a look at the HRRR for today in the south central states. Pretty quiet in Texas and Oklahoma until we get to about 5 o'clock. And then here is our complex of storms, and it's advancing very quickly through Oklahoma this evening, moving east-southeast into the Arklatex region here tonight, and then Arkla miss overnight, and then into Mississippi and Alabama and into Florida. So very active weather across this entire swath here from Kansas and Colorado through Texas, Arkansas to Mississippi, Alabama, and including Louisiana. Sorry about that. We'll see where things are going to get going here right around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock Central Time, southwestern Kansas. Some supercell storms here. We do have a tornado risk and maybe a stronger tornado somewhere in here. Looking at Elk City, Oklahoma, we can see there's going to be strong wind shear. There'll be a bit of an inversion briefly. As this moistens up, there could certainly be a tornado or two. Very buoyant air. It cools quickly aloft. The wind direction shifts very quickly. So I do think there will be some tornadoes in here despite that sounding I pulled up. But everything's moving very quickly here at 60 to 70 miles per hour right through the middle of Oklahoma City around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock tonight, and then leaving the area overnight tonight. We'll get a break, and then tomorrow should be a lot quieter. We could see a few storms over Kansas overnight tomorrow night. Here's a look at North Texas. You will see storms riding the Red River here right around 6 or 7 o'clock this evening, Texas time, and continuing overnight. I do think the majority of this stays north and east of Dallas-Fort Worth, but as we've seen in Dallas, things have been a little unpredictable. But very big hail expected here. You can see a strong area of updraft helicity. That's this bounded area in here, right around the Sherman and Paris, Texas areas, just north of I-30. We do see a very quick drop, a very strong amount of high amount of lapse rate here, which means very big hail is possible, but also a lot of wind damage potentially along the Red River. And then this is going to bow out into the Shreveport area around 2 or 3 in the morning and continue across northeast Texas until about 5 in the morning. Looking at Arkansas, you got a lot of weather last night, or yesterday afternoon and last night. You're going to see it again here overnight tonight, moving into southwest Arkansas around midnight or just after, continuing over the southern portion of the state here into the overnight hours, and then improving weather in the morning tomorrow. But we could still see a few leftover showers and storms. 1 or 2 of these could be severe early in the day tomorrow around 9 or 10 in the morning Central Time, and then more pop-ups coming in the afternoon towards Little Rock and towards Memphis, Tennessee towards the evening. Some of these storms could again be severe, but I think the worst of it's going to stay off to your south. Here's a look at the southeast. We're going to have severe weather today, maybe some hail this morning over parts of Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. More storms regenerating over Mississippi and Louisiana towards midday and moving south and east. This is not the derecho that's coming in. This is a boundary with disturbances riding along it. More heavy rain for parts of Alabama, Georgia, northern Florida. There could be some flash flooding out of this. After these storms move out of the area, here comes our derecho moving in overnight. Louisiana will see severe weather 5 or 6 in the morning around Monroe. Jackson, Mississippi around maybe 6 or 7 in the morning. It could be a little bit quicker too, but you can see this derecho still holds together and then finally starts to fall apart late tomorrow morning into the early afternoon. But we'll still have some strong to severe storms as it carries on into northern Florida here tomorrow afternoon. Maybe some big hail over parts of the northern peninsula of Florida. More storms behind it. These will be a little less organized in nature, but they could still be severe from near Memphis all the way through Mississippi down in Louisiana. I know if you're in Mississippi, you're thinking, holy God, are we ever going to see this come to an end? And I would say probably not till next week, to be honest with you guys. It's just over and over again, we're getting slammed by these storms, and just sorry to say, it's just not going to improve anytime in the next few days. Here's a look at Louisiana and Mississippi. You'll see a few pop-up storms. Some of them could produce hail through this evening. Here's our main event moving in from the northwest around 1 or 2 in the morning. This is 3, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. We could see hurricane force winds even in towards Jackson, Mississippi, towards Natchez, towards Marksville, Louisiana, around 5, 6 in the morning, and then continuing on to the east and southeast towards Mobile, Alabama, around 10 in the morning. And behind it, there'll still be a few showers and storms tomorrow afternoon, and some of these could be severe once again, moving towards the Florida parishes, again, Jackson, Mississippi. I don't even know if we can count the number of severe storms we're going to see here, but it's going to be over 1,000 before the end of the week. More storms tomorrow night, according to the HRRR model as well here around Monroe and Jackson. Not a derecho, but certainly a mesoscale convective system, which could produce some widespread wind damage with it. Alabama and Mississippi are seeing severe weather here this morning. We'll probably have a watch issued later. Some big hail, some strong winds, isolated tornadoes. The main complex of storms here moves in overnight. Here's tomorrow morning, moving into southern Alabama between 9 and 11, weakening at that point. But behind it, additional storm development tomorrow afternoon and carrying into tomorrow evening. Let me show you Mobile here. I kind of had that to the south here. So Mobile could get hit today and again tomorrow morning, and then additional storms here late in the day tomorrow into tomorrow evening. Isolated tornadoes, certainly hail and strong winds are going to be possible here, continuing into tomorrow evening. Farther off to the east in Georgia, we've seen some flash flooding in the southwestern part of the state. We saw tornadoes yesterday. I'd love to say today is going to be a beautiful day. It is not. We're going to see more rounds of showers and storms this morning, and then additional weather this afternoon. A few tornadoes possible, strong winds, and hail continuing, and certainly flash flooding is a potential problem We'll see additional showers and storms into South Carolina and North Carolina here this evening. I don't think they're going to be too severe, but there could be a severe storm or two. And then we'll see things quieting down overnight in South Carolina. More storms, though, moving in from Georgia into the low country overnight around Augusta. And we could see some hail and strong winds here as well. Again, this is just one model. I think things are going to shift a little bit left and right. The timing will adjust. But you can see this is just about as active as it gets this time of the year across this part of the region. And flash flooding certainly is a possibility. Tomorrow we could see more storms in the evening over parts of South Carolina. Some of those could be strong or severe. So we're definitely going to be on the lookout for more potential severe weather. In Florida, you're not immune either. Tallahassee got hit pretty hard here yesterday evening. We're going to get hit again here early today. Around lunchtime or so. Panama City could see hail early this afternoon. Jacksonville could see hail, severe wind. We'll see additional storms this evening. The entire Gulf Coast is just painted with severe weather potentially between 6 and 9 o'clock tonight. And then we have our next storm system moving in. We'll see additional showers and storms over northern Florida, the dying derecho, and then additional development due to convergence of the sea breezes and heating of the day. And this will move down into central Florida here tomorrow afternoon. We could see some severe weather. South Florida could see pop-ups as well. More of a concern for central Florida, and then maybe more storms here tomorrow evening. Finally, across the Midwest and the Northeast, we're not going to be free and clear of any severe weather. We saw some yesterday over parts of the Northeast. We'll see additional storms here developing in Michigan and Ohio late this afternoon, moving south and east into early tonight. There'll be about a 4-hour window where we could have some severe weather. As we get to tomorrow, we will see some additional showers and storms over Pennsylvania and the Mid-Atlantic region, New Jersey. Philly could have a stronger storm around lunchtime. DC, just before lunchtime, we could see some severe weather. And then across Virginia and the Delmarva here tomorrow afternoon. New Jersey as well could see a few heavier storms. These will be a little bit tougher to predict. They're going to be kind of fast moving and more cellular, not really an organized line of storms. But that threat continues and then dies off around 8 or 9 o'clock tomorrow night. More storms on Saturday, but I don't think we'll see widespread severe weather. A lot of rain, though, coming. The Northeast, we could see a couple inches of rain, but the Southeast, we're looking at widespread amounts of 4 to 6 inches of rain over the next 4 days. This is on top of what we've already had, so we really don't need to see this kind of rain. But again, it's going to be a problem. Unfortunately, the Great Lakes are not going to really capitalize on this weather pattern. The Ohio Valley will see some this weekend, but you get to Chicago, unfortunately, there's really no relief coming from this recent dry spell that we're in and really drought that we're going into. You can see amounts here could get over 6 inches of rain near Mobile and Pensacola, 4 inches across the rest of the Florida Panhandle, southern Georgia, on top of what we've already seen here, and a couple of inches across Arkansas, Tennessee, maybe the Carolinas as well. But eastern North Carolina may continue to stay relatively dry out of this pattern. We're going to see heat building across the plains, very hot across Texas and Louisiana the next several days. You'll see high temperatures here, triple digits here tomorrow around the areas just south and west of Dallas-Fort Worth, 107 in Laredo, 101 in Phoenix. Over the weekend, that heat continues to be with us here in the deep south. Upper 90s around Dallas, 102 in San Antonio, 112 in Laredo. And that heat is going to slowly build north and east as well. Nothing extreme, but we could see a few records. We'll talk tropics real fast for you guys. El Nino is still in place here. It dipped a little bit, but we're now steady. It will probably start climbing again here over the next month. Very warm water temperatures for most of the Atlantic except off the eastern seaboard. But with these record hot temperatures, we're going to see early development coming off of Africa over the next few weeks. And right now, no official areas to watch from the Hurricane Center. I think that could change, though, next week. You could see wave after wave coming off of Africa, some wind shear in the way of it. We've got, obviously, high pressure over Mexico, but a gyre starting to form here over Central America and Colombia. And this will be the area to watch next week for gradual development. We're also going to watch things coming across the Atlantic from the east. The GFS model has been showing off and on some sort of a threat to Florida here next week. Not really a big threat, but kind of a weaker system on the latest run, coming through Cuba here next Wednesday, and then going east of Florida. The run before did show something more organized coming up through Cuba and South Florida. Again, it's a little too early to start speculating if this is going to happen, but we will see that surge in moisture coming through Florida, it looks like, as well as Cuba and the Bahamas towards the second half of next week. Could we have a named system? I think it's definitely possible. I think a hurricane hitting Texas like we saw yesterday or last week in the models is not looking as likely. But maybe a tropical storm, maybe even a low-end hurricane somewhere down in here is something that I'll be keeping an eye on. We also have a system coming off of Africa that the models are trying to develop near the islands here late next week into next weekend. But that is so far out, it's really too early to try to pin that down. But we may have two named storms here in the next 14 days. You can see the GFS carries a weak low pressure system in the low latitudes here through the middle of the week. And then as a trough moves in, it's actually going to pick this system up and bring it off to the north and east of the islands. Of course, the GFS does funky stuff here, tries to form a hurricane threatening Bermuda, but June 30th, I'm not going to put a lot of faith in this one particular model run. The European, though, is also jumping on board with this wave as it comes across. It does not have development near Florida, so it is not on board of the GFS, but this does take a system over the islands into the Eastern Caribbean, but it's going to hit some wind shear in here. So I'm not so certain yet we have anything of real value to watch at this point, but there is some potential later next week for something to come across here. And you can see farther out on the European, it's in line with the GFS with some development here next week. Keeps it low. The GFS is farther north, which means it's more likely to recurve, but the European keeps it farther down and could have a tropical storm towards the end of next week in about 8 days or so, affecting the islands. Still too far off in the future to get too definite, but I'll talk about it for you guys and I'll keep watching it for you. If you want to go ahead and see my future videos, I really encourage you to go ahead and subscribe and share with your friends. I appreciate your time today. And as always, I just appreciate everybody who chimes in with questions. I also appreciate those of you who are like me, fellow Christians. I give all the glory to God who has called me to do this. Those of you that are praying, I'm happy to pray for you as well. I want to read a quick verse of encouragement for you, and that is from John 1, the King James Version. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is the definition of Jesus, God, Jesus, the Word. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Jesus is the light. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from God whose name was John, who came to witness Jesus Christ. I'm just here to witness Jesus and what he's done in my life. He died for all of us to have eternal life who accept him as God, as the Word, as the beginning, as God's creation. And every day I just have to remind myself that, we're all going to sin. We're all going to run into darkness, but there is light in that darkness. That is Jesus Christ. We can accept him as our Savior. And in return, he's going to wipe us of our debts and give us eternal life. And if you're struggling with that faith, I'm happy to pray for you. If you're not a believer, that's okay as well. It's not up to me to judge you. I just want to share that encouragement because it's driven me over the last 10 years to become the person I am and to encourage other folks and to help save lives. And I really hope you all have a great day and that you stay safe here across Oklahoma, Southern Plains, and the Southeast. We'll talk again in the morning. God bless you.